classes are over, I'm gonna make a book review. I know that's PewDiePie's thing, but I don't have a niche.
But here are the books. Hashtag thumbnail.
So these are all pretty much travel books because I'm a Sag. I don't know if that has to do anything with the travel books, but I just want to feel like I'm traveling. But anyway, let's get started.
I have some of these books on sale on my Shopee page. Some of the products I have yet to enlist in my Shopee page, so you may check out my Shopee page.
So the first book I'm gonna tackle is some of the classic literature, which is Pride and Prejudice. It took me 2 weeks to read this, but it's the classic love story. We all loved the movie. I personally love the Pride and Prejudice 2005 version. I haven't watched the more accurate adaptation, but this is nice.
So it tells a story about Elizabeth Bennet, which is a sister with 5 siblings,
And they're all quite poor, and
Elizabeth, which is the main character, meets Mr. Darcy. I hate when American people pronounce Mr. Darcy like that. I'd rather call it with Mr. Darcy, the British accent.
they eventually, this is Haters to Lovers, the original Haters to Lovers. I don't know if they're Haters to Lovers back then, but this book is great for those who love that category. Moving on, Nicholas Sparks, True Believer. So out of all the Nicholas Sparks
Book I've ever read, this is the worst. This feels like a money grab, since I just don't like it because it's so
there's really no context to their love story besides a city boy meets a small town girl and they somehow hit it off.
they're just desperate. I think desperation is the root of their love story. But anyway, this is about a journalist who comes to a small town called Boone Creek in North Carolina, and he just wants a big story while journalism, and he's a natural skeptic, and she believes in like the paranormal stuff since her grandmother is a psychic.
And I'm quite angry because this has a sequel, which is At First Sight, and yeah, just makes me despise all Nicholas Sparks books now. But I still love Dear John in the Notebook. So next book in the series is I See London, I See France by Sarah Mlynowski. So this book is about two friends. One is more of uptight since her mother's struggling some mental illness, and the other is quite manic pixie. And they go on to travel all over Europe, and that's one of the things I love about this book is because they travel, of course,
and they meet the best friend's ex-girlfriend when they're on the trip, ironically. Then the book goes on from there and their love story. So you better read this book
if you want to like get a travel vibes, but in any other aspect, it's quite meh. Our next book is Mary Lou's Warcross. So I freaking love this book because I just love the genre. Ready Player One was a great movie. I haven't read the book, but this, according to some Goodreads review, this was better in terms of description.
So this has a sequel, which is Wildcard, and some of the Goodreads review I have read is that the second book is quite worse. So I'm still planning to read on the second book, but this book was good. This was great.
So Mary Lou's book, it talks about
a girl named Emika Chen, and she's a bounty hunter in New York. What I realized is they're all almost set up in New York, but Emika Chen is struggling at life, and suddenly she accidentally hacked into the Warcross tournament, which then suspected Hideo Tanaka that she's and then Hideo shipped almost Emika Chen to Japan, which is the tournament, and she becomes a Warcross player. So that is pretty much the main plot of the story, and the end is kind of disappointing.
Overall, it's a great book and a great introduction to this genre, which is pretty much a futuristic. I heard it was gonna be a movie and adaptation, so I'm really excited for that because the budgeting must be big since it's futuristic. Moving on to the next book, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. So Morgan Matson, I love Morgan Matson books. I have 2 of her books already now. I have Save the Date in this, so Save the Date is about to be read, but from what I read from this, I know she's a great author. I love her for the summer reads, of course, but it's not necessarily summer, but it is quarantine, so I consider it summer.
But this was a great book. There was great character development story.
So the story is about Amy Curry, who struggles with the death of her father and goes with a trip with a boy, and it's kind of a metaphor of the road trip, since it's how she develops from that and moves on from her death of her father. Well, that's pretty much what I can tell from this book, but it's a great read. And I read this for like 3 days and I'm finished. Because I love Morgan. So now we're gonna move on to the next book. So our next book is Gayle Forman's Just One Day series. I know there's a third book. I just downloaded the PDF of the third book because it doesn't seem like a book because it only has like 100 pages, but it was Just One Night, and Just One Night is pretty good. For a closing between these two books, this book, I don't like this book. I don't like the male perspective because it was so boring, besides him just pretty much ranting out his feeling. But the first book was great. The story happens like the girl's perspective, and reading the boy's perspective, it makes sense that this would happen. But overall, I love the setting mostly and the traveling experience, because it's set in France, Paris. I really want to travel Europe, mostly in France, because I want to study there. I am supposed to not telling this anyway. It was a great introduction to the setting of Paris, and it just makes me want to fall in love more with France. But anyway, I haven't told the context of this book. So Allison, the main character, goes on a field trip to Europe. I'm not sure about the first place they went exactly, but she was wanting to go to France, but unfortunately the field trip didn't go there, so she decided to elope with this guy, not like impulsively, not marry, I just want to use the elope word. Then they kinda develop a chemistry and they really seem to enjoy each other, but unfortunately something bad happens, and that's where the plot kicks in. So that is Just One Day and Just One Year. So out of all of the books I liked, we're gonna rate them now. So my lowest rating book is Nicholas Sparks. I don't want to ever read this book. I don't want to even see this. I just want to go for the other Nicholas Sparks book anyway. So this is in the trash. 2 stars. So the next two, The Believer by Nicholas Sparks, is I See London, I See France. I really don't like how the way the friend abused the main character. Not necessarily abused, but she treats her badly. And that's a spoiler. That's why I'm gonna rate this a 2.5, but I like the traveling in Europe stuff. I learned a lot. So the next to this is Pride and Prejudice, so I'm gonna rate this a 3.5. The deep English, I don't really prefer it because it causes me a reading slump, and it felt like a chore reading this, but it's a great story overall. Kudos to you, Jane Austen. Next book in my reading is Gayle Forman. So this is the first fictional book I read intentionally, besides schoolwork, but this was great. The trilogy was good, but I'm gonna rate this a 3.8 because I didn't like this Just One Year. So moving on is Amy and Roger's epic Detour. I'm gonna rate this a 4 because I love Morgan Matson, and I really like the way they portrayed the character development with Amy Curry. The boy's storyline doesn't really appeal to me that much, but it's great overall. I like the way she narrated it, and I like some of the playlists, although I learned plenty of songs with the playlist Morgan Matson written in this book, but yeah, it's a great book. Buy this. And our 4.5 stars is Warcross. I like the first fight scene. Hideo Tanaka just gives Christian Grey vibes also, but not necessarily that I like Christian Grey, but overall, this is all the books I read, and it's a great read for a 15-year-old. Pretty much of them, almost all of them are young adult, but yeah, so I guess we've reached the end of our video. Thank you for watching and reaching to the end. I hope you maybe wanna check out my Shopee page down below. If you wanna buy some used books, pre-loved books, they're all in good condition, as well as if you wanna afford cheap books, you may check out my Shopee page. So yeah, you may check out my other socials here. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.